All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise to Yahweh Shemi Thumb. It's the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in His name, and His Son, the Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, who we know as Jesus Christ. All right, all praise to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, uh, and His Son, who we know as Jesus Christ. What I want to start with the question of what makes you trust your teacher? What what makes you trust your teacher? Do you have the spirit of the Bereans? Are you going back checking what he says, or when he says something? Or those who trust me, are you just immediately taking what I say and going to um, teach those things? What makes you fully convinced that I've done the research, that I've crossed the eyes, that I don't have scale on my eyes, that I can see the text clearly, or if I'm being lazy or not, and I'm just grabbing verses, I don't know what's going on in the darn chapter. Um, what makes one trust his teacher or trust what somebody tells us and we don't check it? We just go out there and start teaching it, and I fall victim to this. I've you know I've done countless videos rebuking one West Israelism, doing verse by verse. How many verses do we find wrong, or how many teachings do we find wrong in a doctrine before we say, you know what, man, I may need to start over. I may need to re-examine this whole thing. How many verses does that take? And this is going to be something personal. How many verses do it take for you? I already reached that point. I've already reached it. And so I go back to re-examine. I had some brothers come out of some doctrines, and they sat down and said, you know what, man, we gotta just re-examine this whole thing. My brother, shouts out to salute to my brother, Street Baptism. He was what, quote unquote, a precept king. He was sharper than everybody. When it started Prince of Power, he was pretty much sharper than everybody. But he's come to find out that a lot of this stuff have been lost in just reading comprehension and just being blinded by pre-notions where we can't even see the text, where we just redefining certain things. But anyway, that's just a question you ask yourself. This ain't something that you put in the comments or nothing, but how many missed teachings does it take for one to say, you know what, let me sit back and re-examine this whole thing? How many what does it take for you to go and regurgitate what somebody's saying? Dude, like, how does one have that trust? And I'm gonna say it, for me, it was generally initially just based off of how I seen brothers have certain answers or have certain responses for everything. No matter what someone said to them, they had a response. And through that process, through me seeing that in countless videos, it built up a trust in me that these people know exactly what they're talking about. All right. And I'm not even going to ask them any questions. I'm just going to write down these verses so I can say that same answer. I'm not going to go look into the chapter. But anyway, all that is going to play into this video by a good brother Sicarii. And, in this one, I'm in agreement. And I'm not in agreement, but I ain't going to say that. I learned something that I didn't know. I was corrected on something. I was confounded on something that I didn't know. And I agree. Once they broke it down to me, I was like, yeah, that was right. But let's look at this video and then we'll get into Oh, okay, yeah, we record. Then we'll get into it. All right. Well, we ain't got no juice. Can't play the video. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm in the wrong stuff.
Stretch out upon it the line of confusion, and the stones of emptiness. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there. And all her princes shall be nothing, and thorns shall come.
Just to give some context, he's reading Isaiah 34. He's reading about 10 verses up to try to give us some context on Isaiah 34 and 16. Where search out of the book and read it. It shall have no mate. And we would use that and say, seek out of the book and read, and it has no mate. We'll say, well, you can't put the Quran with it. You can't put any other biblical text with it. You can't add this to it. You know, it has no mate. It's a standalone book. You know, and we'll say that. But we finna see here that it don't mean that. That's not what that's saying. And they're out to prove this at this very moment. Sicarii, chief priest.
Up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons and a court for owls.
Read on.
The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the islands.
That's who's gonna live here. Go ahead.
And the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest.
Read on.
There shall the great owl.
The great owl, read.
Make her nest.
Read on.
And lay. And hatch.
Read on.
And gather under her shadow.
Read on.
There shall the vultures.
The who?
Vultures.
There shall the vultures. Go ahead.
Also be gathered.
The vultures are going to gather here. Go ahead.
Every one with her mate.
Every what?
One with her mate.
Everyone with her mate. So when it says none shall want her mate, it's talking about there's going to be plenty of vulture couples having sex and making babies in America. There will be no people. So when people go and read here in Isaiah 34 and 16 and say, none shall want her mate, that's not talking about the Bible. That's talking about vultures. Yeah. For the record. Right? So when it says, seek ye out the book of the Lord and read, no one of these shall fail, it's telling you these are prophecies that have been existing about the destruction of Babylon.
Exactly.
None shall want her mate, the vultures. For my mouth it hath commanded, right? And his spirit, it hath gathered them. Who is them? The vultures.
Yeah.
So who the spirit gathered was not Luke's book in the Bible. It's vultures.
Yeah,
idiot. Just like it. Do not start to lecture me on the Bible when you do not know it. Please. Right? Go ahead.
I'm going to read the next verse in the NLT. Just verse 17, because it proves exactly what you're saying. It says, none shall want her mate. Boom. It says, from my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. The them is, again, the vultures. He has surveyed, verse 17, the last verse of the chapter. He has surveyed and divided the land and deeded it over to those creatures. They will possess it forever, from generation to generation. That's what it means, none shall want. Like in the Bible, when it says, there shall David shall not want a man to sit on the throne of Israel, or the Levite.
Meaning he's not going to, or the Levite, meaning we're going to be plenty of priests,
exactly.
And David's always going to have a descendant on the throne,
yeah.
And the vultures are always going to have a mate to procreate.
Exactly. That's why, in just one last thing.
Yes, sir.
That's why in Deuteronomy 28 and 47, when it says, if you serve the Lord your God, he will give you an abundance of all things. But if you don't, you'll serve your enemy for want of all things. Want means you don't have it. So when it's saying none shall want her mate, they're going to be provided. She's not going to be in want of a mate. They're going to have plenty of mates because God has decreed that this land's going to be destroyed and filled with goddamn vultures. You idiot.
That's it. That's it. Right? Now come on here.
They make the vultures better than the Canaanites.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? So that's all it is, man. So this guy done got me riled up here because he doesn't know the Bible and he thinks he knows the Bible. But let any of these people reconcile why the hell Luke has so many different names in his genealogy than Matthew does.
So, you know, yeah, I don't know what happened to my camera. So Chief Priest pretty much got riled up because this dude was pretty much tried him scholastically, and he brings this thing. He tried to use the precept Isaiah 34:16, and this is the thing. This is my problem I have with it. I appreciate that he's giving the information because not that I really used that verse, but I have, and I never went back to look at it to see if that thing. I can really say I probably never read Isaiah 34. There's no way you could say you read Isaiah 34 and you sat there and said none shall want her mate, and you thought it was a darn something else to do with another Bible or something that's you trying to apply to the Bible. Let's look at this thing. But two, I want to say that the only reason Chief Priest did, and that's why I'm a little salty with, is that he been knew this thing and knew that Israel is saying it's wrong. But the only reason he brought the correction because somebody tried him, and he had to show them, man, you don't know more than me. But he ain't telling these camps this. You're not going to, hey man, we need to stop. You need to start sending out memos. We need to stop using this verse. And that's what I be doing. Stop using that Jeremiah 14:2. Stop using the darn and just countless verses that we not went through on that refuting one West Hebrew Israelism. But this is another one, man. Isaiah 34, and let's just start at verse 1. It says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that came forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. And all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off the vine, and as the fallen fig from the fig tree." And then, I done seen even people try to spiritualize the darn heavens being as a scroll, man. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness, with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord has a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks. And you go into that unicorns. I seen, what was that brother name? Brother Ron Dalton. Going to the unicorns, and he just said it with an absolute, like, yeah, this means wild bulls. And then he said, well, who has wild bulls? Where are the wild bulls today? Well, the wild bulls are in South Africa. It's not up there where they call in Israel. The wild bulls are in South Africa. But if you look into this word, where he looked into it at, if we look into it, what was it? Unicorns? Did I hit the wrong verse? Nope, there it is. Is that it? Nope. I must have hit the wrong. Where is it again, man? Unicorns. The unicorns. Probably the great uroks or wild bulls, which are now extinct. The exact meaning is not known. All right. So my thing is, just don't speak with absolutes. This could be some extinct animal. They don't know. This could be the great. Are they telling you they don't know? And you just say, oh, it's a wild bull. That ain't what it said. That's not what it's telling you. But maybe it's telling you that somewhere else. I don't know. But we got to be careful of speaking in absolutes on things and building whole doctrines upon certain premises that we're not really sure on. You're not really getting the evidence unless you got the evidence. If you got the evidence, you're like, yeah, I apologize. Anyway, biblical shot. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. For as the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. And the streams thereof shall be turned into a pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. It shall not be quenched night or day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever, from generation to generation. It shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. For the cormorant, and the bittern shall possess it. All right, these animals. The owl also. The raven shall dwell in it. He shall stretch out upon it a line of confusion, and the stones of emptiness. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof. And it shall come to hold on, y'all. I don't know if this usually don't do this. Excuse me. And thorns shall come up in the palaces, nettles and the brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons and a court for owls. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet the wild beasts of the islands, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find herself a place of rest. There shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch and gather under her shadow. There shall be vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it have commanded, and the spirit it have gathered. Search out the book. None shall want her mate. Meaning the vultures that was just talking about in the previous verse. And the spirit have gathered them, and he have cast a lot of them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by the line. They shall possess it forever, for generation to generation shall they dwell therein. And again, I just read what he read over, but if you read the chapter, and you see it didn't take me long to read that chapter. We read the chapter. There's no way you can say something crazy like, look in the book and read, none of these shall want her mate. Meaning the Bible don't need no other darn book to go with it. You can't say you read that thing. And again, my question is, what makes you trust someone? Like, I fully trusted someone to repeat this verse. And I done heard everybody use it. I want to see nobody talking about, nah, man, I ain't never used that. I'll check. Come on, man. Probably 95% of Israel still using that verse. None shall want her mate. The Bible is the her. Come on, y'all. And how many verses before we have to re-examine? How many verses for you individually? Everybody got to work their own salvation. How many verses for you do you have to find that you were mistaught before you sit down and say, you know what, let me re-examine. Let me re-examine what I've been taught. Let me go back and look through all of this stuff to make sure that it's right. I pray this thing was edifying. Israel, y'all be blessed.